contractor to not do that, but I'm assuming this work was probably just done by the homeowner on their...
No, it was done by a contractor.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was the other incident, I think it was at 35 Lancaster, was it? Is that right? Yeah, that was something that the building inspector just...
So,
Yeah, he drove by and noticed it and wrote to me and said, by the way.
I wonder if he said anything to the homeowner.
I don't know. I don't know how that was resolved.
Yeah.
I could certainly ask him about that. Just follow up with him.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe Adam Burney or somebody would have ideas about how towns do this. I mean, you can see the dilemma for the, even the building inspector, it's hard to be omniscient about these things,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think it's not planning's job to make people aware of building permit
No,
requirements.
I'm
It's
just-
the building department's.
Sure. I'm thinking about who would have the, legal knowledge to be useful there. I mean, you can ask the building inspector.
Yeah, the building inspector.
Yeah.
He's the one that's responsible for that. He has lots of, you mentioned, somebody doing work that could have structural implications. If a building collapses, one of the people that's going to get, and someone gets killed, one of the people that's going to get a phone call about that situation related to construction activity is the building inspector.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why they should have a sense that people need to know we exist. People need to know when they need to file for a permit, and that's their job, is to make sure that those permit requirements are clear to people who are doing construction work.
Right.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what he did with the most recent one.
All right, I'll follow up with him on that. Any further correspondence?
None for me.
I don't have any old business on the agenda.
Could I bring up some old business?
You may.
50 Main Street, the former Methodist church has been under, and we've discussed this in the past, has been under demolition by neglect for forever. And I've watched that steeple on that church go from a complete steeple with all its architectural details to just a basic steeple right now, and as it's going to continue, it's going to end up being having to take it. They're going to have to take it down. Within our powers is to authorize ask the building inspector to issue a cease and desist order for the demolition of that building. I'm recommending that be done at this point before that whole structure is eliminated.
So you're asking, you would recommend that we ask the building inspector to issue a cease and desist order for the neglect of?
For the demolition by neglect of that
Okay.
steeple.
All right. Open it to the board for discussion.
So has there been any conversation with the building owner to date?
We've sent him, I believe, at least 2 letters, maybe 3, over the past, since we've been in business since December 2017, and have received no response. Now, under the bylaw, if that steeple is subject to demolition by neglect and is removed, they're not going to be able to get a building permit if they need to do work on that building for 2 years.
Yeah, the building owner is a Lunenburg resident, I'm assuming? Is it one of the
I
tenants?
don't know if they're in town now.
This is the security company, right?
the security company, as far as I know, doesn't own that building.
Oh, really?
It was in the Bowen family,
Yeah.
who were Lunenburg residents, to my knowledge, but I don't know where they are.
Yeah, no, they're in Lunenburg. I think, yeah, I would propose that we have a conversation with the building owner before taking a path of, you know, issuing the cease and desist. I think it is more like, you know, I think it's just better.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you know them or how to contact them?
I do. In fact, I think the owner may work out of the office next door to the security firm. So
Perhaps you could ask him to our next meeting or discuss what his
yeah, I can.
intentions are and let us know.
Yeah, I can reach out to him. I mean, I am actually friends with the owner, so that I don't know if that's a conflict of interest or not. But
I think it's an advantage.
yeah, it could be an advantage too. Yeah. Okay. As long as the board's fine with that, just full disclosure. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like the last time I sent a letter, it's this. Let me see what the date is on this.
There's actually 3 units there.
Yeah, but it was to whomever it may concern. This letter is addressed to Mr. Robert H. Bowden, trustee, or whoever is currently responsible. I think it's incorrect. It's Bowen, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the assessor's.
The
right
upkeep
now.
of the building and the old, yeah, and it goes on. The intent of the letter is to inform you that said property lies within the APD, that the condition of the property is in violation of the APD regulations, and state that it may not be significantly altered either intentionally or by neglect. Whereas most of the old Methodist church has been well maintained, the steeple has been neglected and has begun to deteriorate. If left unchecked, it will not be possible to repair, etc. Please do not be alarmed by this notice. The APDC has no current plans to take any legal enforcement action on the matter, but we wanted to make it clear that the steeple is a protected historical structure and to urge you to begin planning for its maintenance. We hope that you can be back in compliance with the bylaw in the near future. If you want to discuss it matter further, contact us.
could you forward that to me, Colin? Just
Sure.
When did you send that letter?
I'm trying to find that here. Let's file.
so. I mean, I think I like the things about the letter. I like is, I mean, I think by getting into dialogue, there might be some opportunities to, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
arrest the decay and put together a plan to, you know.
Yeah, it's always the way to go.
You know.
It's not. I mean, it's not totally clear to me that this letter ever reached Mr. Bowen.
So we haven't got any responses, yeah.
No, so I think maybe, yeah, I would agree with Mr. Lockwood that we should maybe just try again to reach the owner.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go phone or knock on his door first. I mean, I'm just wondering if you could send me the letter just for background.
Yeah, sure.
That would be super.
It's actually a condominium
Oh, okay.
because there's 3 units, and there's 2 of the 3 units are owned by the Robert Bowen, but the third one is David Duvall, trustee, Center Trust, and unit 2 is assessed at $103,900. Unit 1
For the notes, does that letter have a
is
proper
owned by
title?
the Center
Or is it
Professional
just like a letter of
Condominium,
concern?
and it's assessed at $0, and then unit 3 is
It's a
assessed
notice
at
of violation.
Notice of
$60,000.
violation.
So there's three separate owners listed for 3 units at that address, same address.
Wait, Unit 1 was professional condominium?
Yeah.
at 103.
Yeah, the unit 1 is Center Professional Condominium. Unit 2 is David Duvall, trustee. And then
What was that assessment?
that one's 103.
Oh, they're both, 1 and 2 are both 103?
No. Hold on, let me bring this up again. I got out of there, I gotta go back. All right, so there's 50 Main Street is Center Professional Condominium, and it's assessed at $0. Unit 3 is 50 Main Street, and it's owned by Robert Bowen, trustee, and it's assessed at $60,500. And then Unit 2 is owned by David Duvall, and it's assessed at $103,900. So there's 3 distinct different ownership groups of 50 Main Street.
And they're all trustees,
Yeah,
so that building's in a trust.
yeah.
Okay.
Complicated ownership structure. And pretty interesting assessment.
Not tiny.
I wonder who the Center Professional Condominium is.
Well, it's assessed at $0. I'm guessing it's just an address with no space at all. It's
Right.
just it's
Right.
the condo.
Mailbox.
Yeah.
Right.
You asked when that was. See, this letter was created in June of 2021.
Okay.
The last time
So
we
it's
tried
been a while.
that we reached out. So
And you'll send that to me later?
I can send that to you right now.
Okay, thanks.
I can figure out how to use a Macintosh computer. I'll send it to you right now. It's so difficult. Finding
So I have prior notice of violation sent by Chair Dwyer on June 2021, but unknown if notice ever made it to the owner.
Fair enough.
There are 3 distinct parcels.
Okay, let's,
That's what those Methodists splitting up that church like that. Just kidding.
alright.
I actually love the history of how the churches formed this church down
Yeah,
here.
isn't it cool?
Yeah, I read that in the Red Book,
Yeah.
Richard.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, very interesting.
Take that history with a grain of salt.
Yeah, yeah.
Any further discussion on the? I think the conclusion of that was that we were going to try again to contact the owner or owners, as the case may be.
And that's what I captured. Member Lockwood will ask owner to come to board to discuss the violation.
Would it be okay just to,
Location.
that it was accurate? I'm wondering if maybe, if I could just have a conversation, report back, and then we can see about bringing them in or not bringing them in, or,
Yeah.
if that's okay, that's fine.
Great. Any other further discussion on the Old Methodist Church? Any further old business?
One more item. I don't necessarily want to discuss it, but the town pound needs to be restored. It's been in disrepair for a long time. The stone walls are being undermined by large trees next to it and shrubs shrubbery is hiding it, overgrown shrubbery. And the gate hasn't been cleaned and painted in decades. The sign that denotes the town pound is rusting and needs to be painted. So there's quite a bit of work to do on it. With your blessing, I would like to come up with a plan for the restoration of that. When that was in the Historical Commission's jurisdiction, we had a plan to restore that, and I had meetings with the DPW chief and to go over things there.
I recall that.
But at some point, that needs to be done.
Okay, so that would be, you're talking about restoration with some town resources, basically?
No, volunteer.
Okay,
Yeah,
volunteer
it
resources,
doesn't
okay,
need,
Okay.
doesn't need a lot of money.
excellent.
Some paint and labor.
Yeah, I mean, sounds good. Timing of it, the house is for sale, the owner is in her 90s.
Yes.
Yeah, I think if we can do it in a discreet manner that doesn't, I think it's great. I think it's great that you do the planning, the volunteer resource. It sounds wonderful what you're
Yeah.
proposing. And I think the owner had been, had been seeking some help from the town with
Yeah.
that for a while. So I think she would be thrilled. I don't know, maybe, I would just say maybe some care around, discretion around that to make sure it doesn't impact
The new owner?
the sale more,
yeah.
sale process.
Yeah, it wouldn't be till way after that.
Okay.
It's for sale now, so.
Yeah, it is. It
And
is.
the one thing with that sale, the real estate listing is listing the town pound as part of that property.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's misinformation that's being put on there, or if there's some truth to that.
You'd have to, maybe, would you check to look at the assessor, the office of the assessor or whatnot? I mean, there's been pretty significant, I would check with the
Check with the assessor. I will do that.
Okay. Yeah, that would be quite a surprise. I always thought that was town property. The town
Well,
land.
It dates back to, I think, 1764. So it's one of the oldest things in the center of town.
Yep.
So that's significant.
Yeah, I think there is a chance that it is part of the property. I remember when I first moved here, I feel like learning this. So I find out from the assessor, but it wouldn't shock me either way, I guess is what I'm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I live next door to that. I'm not trying to be a know-it-all.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the parcel as described on Redfin, and it looks like the structure associated with the town pond is outside the sale property. It's as listed on Redfin.
Okay.
So maybe that may be accurate, that may not be accurate. But there is a jog in the property line, and that indicates it's part of the parcel associated with the town of Lunenburg's ownership.
There's a jog in the pound wall for some reason. It was not original to the, and it's on the house side, so I don't know why that ever happened.
Yeah, I wonder if that's when they divided the pound keeper's cottage off from the pound, and the pound lost that little piece, and they built the wall around it. I don't know.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah. That was my impression anyway.
What did they do with the pound? What took place there originally?
Stray animals.
Bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it was like a dog pound, except for cows and horses.
Yeah.
Pigs and
Really?
sheep. And you had to go there to retrieve your animal and pay a fee.
Yep.
Interesting.
Animals roamed free a lot back then.
Yeah.
When they knew how to get out for greener pastures.
Full of guilty looking cows.
Actually, I thought of that when the llamas were going back there.
My daughter-in-law ran into a stray cow on Lancaster Shirley Road by the Stillman farm, and she called the police. And this past summer, and he go, that happens more. That's happened more frequently than you might think. I mean, the cow was walking on the road.
Yeah. People just gotta slow down. There might be cows.
Yeah. So back in the old days, that cow would have ended up at the pond,
For
right?
sure, yeah. Yeah, the guy that
Yeah.
retrieved them.
Well, I think
The dog officer.
it's something that
Same as our
somebody else's
present-day
cattle
dog
are grazing in your pasture. Yeah, or they're wandering around and being a nuisance.
An interesting piece of history. We need
Yeah.
to save that
Yeah.
those walls.
Mr. McGrath, what was there anything? I mean, I know you were planning on doing the work yourself. As long as I've known you, you've been working flat out at work. Is that what?
Yeah, I'm still retired, working full-time, but I'm winding it down quickly.
Okay.
So I have a lot more free time to
All right.
do different projects.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good for you. So what is the plan then, or what was the plan when you were discussing this
The plan
before?
was to meet with the tree warden, who's the head of the DPW, and go over with taking some of those trees out that are close to the pound and undermining the walls with their roots,
Yeah.
and take out the shrubbery so that the pound is viewed from the front fully and not hidden. Paint the existing sign, clean and grind down to the bare metal, and reprime and paint the gate, put a new lock on it, and the stone walls that are leaning, they would be taken down. The stones would be photographed, the wall would be photographed first, and then the stones would be numbered, taken down, and then put back in their historical order.
What do you see as like procedurally? I guess you would need a building permit, I suppose, and you would
No,
need.
there's no building permit needed for that.
Okay. Well, what sort of permitting would you need? Would you need permission from the select board, from this board?
Well, I had previous permission during the historical commission meeting from the town manager's office, but I don't know if that needs to be reviewed. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I think yeah. Well, first let's resolve the ownership issue. Make sure that it's owned by the town. If it's not, then that would complicate it, I think, if it was privately owned. But yeah, then I guess suppose we would need to approach the new property owner if it was privately owned.
Yes.
Okay.
I would also propose a larger sign that carries the history on it of the pound, its inception, its promotion by John Fitch, who was in charge of getting that started, and what was done there, so people know that stray animals went there, and then people aren't just driving by there at 30 miles an hour, that they'll notice that the wall is there and the historic sign, and I think it'll more people will read it.
Great.
I wish it was 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's right down the street from you, right?
Yes.
Very good. Then why don't we do that? Who's the assessor's map? You were going to look into that.
Yeah,
It's
I'll check
okay.
on that.
Why don't we resolve that issue, and maybe this would be a land use issue. Maybe we could contact Adam Burney, assuming it is town property, just to.
Well, the assessor's map says owner Lunenburg, but it also lists the Parks Department.
Okay.
So maybe those are the town officials to start working with.
Okay.
What does it say that the Parks Department has what role?
It's listed as co-owner on the property, property card.
Wonder because it butts up against the pond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's actually a very large parcel. It's 28 acres.
Oh,
Yeah, because it includes the pond.
I see.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll attend one of their meetings and let them know that that belongs to them. I don't know if they do.
Okay.
They might not.
Yeah, I figure there's probably something we need to do before you show up and
Yeah, definitely.
start cutting down trees and
Yeah.
lifting stands and stuff. So, and
Yep, they should.
absolutely want to move this project along. We've been talking about it for a long time now, and it's looking a little bit neglected now. So, yeah. Excellent. Any further discussion on Town Pound?
I didn't see the call. I don't know who did the police department. There's a man out here cutting down trees and numbering rocks. I don't know what he's doing.
Being the police blotter. Very good then. I can get my agenda back up here. Maybe not.
I'm next.
Are you?
Review new draft of CTA application.
Let's do it. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just describe the approach that I took. I tried to keep the language of the application, of the determination of applicability, keep this process within the language of the bylaw.
Good.
If I didn't look at the guidelines, because the guidelines are guidelines. I wanted to look at the bylaw and try and use the form to provide guidance to a resident that needs to comply with Chapter 113. So what I've done is, to tell the person that you're sending all this material to the town clerk via email. Now, the bylaws say you have to submit this to the town clerk. The guidelines say you submit it to both the town clerk and the land use, this group here, planning department. And I'm trying to make it easy. I mean, no citizen should have to go to two different offices and drop off the same piece of paper to two different offices. Sometimes you might have to have two different pieces of paper that you have to drop off at one town office and then go to another town office. But if you got the same piece of paper, you should only have to give it to one person in the town, and then the town should take responsibility for making sure that it's routed to the correct place. The other reason why I want to simplify this process is because we discussed that maybe the building commissioner would get involved in some of this. Now, I'm not proposing that yet, and one of the reasons why is to get into the building department, you actually have to set up an account in the building department. It's a separate email, it's a separate website, not run by the town of Lunenburg. It's run by like a governmental organization, a .gov organization that offers that portal ability to multiple municipalities. So once again, if we decide that we want to get the building commissioner involved in this, that would come from the town clerk deciding where this document should go. Town clerk sends it to land use, town clerk sends it to the building department. But the resident who's submitting this form only has to worry about sending this to the town clerk. The other thing is, the town clerk is where the legal mumbo jumbo is maintained. It's been received, it's been approved, it's been disapproved in accordance with the bylaw. So I want to keep it as a one-stop shop. All right, so, and then the other thing that I've done with this, as I said, you're going to submit everything via email. And I says, if email is not possible, if you're one of those persons that's still living in the 20th century, that you then have to create 7 hard copies and submit those to the town clerk. And if there's drawings, they have to be submitted in full-scale reproductions. half scale or quarter scale or 1/8 scale like what we've seen here before. And hopefully that requirement to do 7 hard copies will make someone say, well, I don't have an email account, I should go get one. And I think quite honestly, you know, in the 21st century, there are very few people out there, no matter how old they are, that don't have email. But we've given them the opportunity that if they don't want to do it this way, they can drop a copy off. But for all of those people who are in the 21st century, now they no longer have to worry about generating a piece of paper to bring to town hall and drop off. Now there is some issues with regards to filing fees, and we'll get to that as we go through here. So, you know, the basics: your name, your address, the property
Yeah,
address.
sorry, just a clarification on the, so, if they do send by email, if there's drawings, whatever, they're just sending PDFs? Or
Yeah,
whatever, okay.
yeah, and that, we'll get down to that.
Okay.
All right, you know, because I think that, so then we're gonna say, so the logistics, the nuts and bolts, who are you, where's the property, what's your email address? Where do we send, where do we mail stuff if we have to, if it's different than a property address? Or in some cases, you know, there might be an agent doing this on behalf of a property owner. Like Cornerstone, they did that for the folks who live in the greenhouse, you know, that had the window that they wanted to replace. So it's like, all right, so now tell us what you want to do, you know. In this language, repair, alteration, or addition is, you know, what is it? And then if you've got some photos or drawings, you know, that supports the work you want to do, send those to, you know, give us that information. And then you may request a consultation with us prior to their review of your application to facilitate this determination of applicability. So it says, in many cases, the consultation will speed up the process and approval to proceed with the desired work to the affected property. So they would then have the opportunity to say, I'm replacing, you know, a window in the back of my garage, just like what we got from Cornerstone. And here's a picture of the window that we're going to use. And that may be all that has to get submitted. Then we also have a block here that says, do you want to meet with us? Yes or no? You know, and then once we get that, then we know that we got to set up a time for them to meet. You know, we'd say, all right, you want to meet with us? Here's our normal meeting. Does this work for you? And I think most people would say, yeah, that'll work for me. And if it doesn't, then we'll say, all right, we got to call a special meeting. You know, we'll have to get members arranged for. But we'll meet with you as best as we can. Initial filing fee, and there's fees on this current application of initial filing fee, and then there's another one that says binding review administrative fee if known. And do they have to file? Do they have to write a check out for us to be able to review this? You know, like, I didn't see that in the bylaws. You know, it's not in the bylaw. If you know, where does it exist that we have to charge the resident, you know, money to review their documents? And are we doing that?
Yeah.
And if we are doing it, why? And if there's not a good reason for us to look at what they want to do, you know, without getting into the binding review, then I'd say, let's not charge them. I mean, we're not charging. None of us are getting paid.
That's true.
You know.
That's true. Yeah, I remember discussing this, and I think it was just decided that, yeah, it puts a certain burden on town resources when you submit anything that, you know, the departments need to spend time on it and sending it or copying it or whatever it is, so that we thought it was appropriate to have a nominal filing fee. But I don't think any of us feel strongly about it, you know.
Yeah, so that might be something we have a conversation with town staff, town manager, clerk.
A couple of things that,
Okay.
on the first, this whole form, I would ask Marjorie her opinion, since she facilitates these applications and files them, as well as the
town clerk.
as well as with this fee.
Okay.
I would ask Marjorie
You all know Marjorie's retiring. You know
if
that,
it's
don't you?
warranted. No,
Yeah, she's retiring in June.
June,
June,
so
okay.
it's a good time to ask her.
All right.
She's seasoned, she has a lot of experience.
But I guess if you got rid of the fee, you could be 100% online.
Yeah, Yeah.
application.
Right.
Make it easier, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think given our mission is to sort of, our goal is to, whatever, protect the certain historical quality, certain aspects of the preservation district. Yeah, I think we should get, if the fee's not
Required by some law.
by something, we should get
Yeah.
rid of it. And in fact, what is the fee? I mean, if it,
0.5.
yeah, I mean, probably the cost of the employee processing the deposit is going to exceed the value of the fee.
Yeah, I know.
And I mean, like, we want them to come and do this, and we want them to not hate our guts while they're doing it. So I would say, yeah, let's get rid of it.
Is it our fee or is it the town clerk's fee?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
It doesn't go to the clerk though.
I mean, it doesn't go to us.
113.8, it should be submitted to Marjorie.
According to the guidelines, right?
113.8 No, according to the bylaw, 113.8, section B says applications can be submitted electronically, but applicants shall also provide one hard copy to the planning office. So it should come here. It's in the next section, it's in C that explains that it's up to us to submit our determinations to the clerk and the building inspector.
Okay, hold on.
Oh,
Where are you at?
I am 113-8. Section, the end of section.
Oh, this is for binding review. This is for binding review,
Okay,
not for things that fall outside of binding review.
okay, for determination.
Yeah. Which is one of the reasons why there was on the form there is a separate fee for those. It says binding review administrative fee. There's an
Yes.
initial filing fee, and then there's a binding review administrative fee.
That's right. We
There
have
may
two
be a
fees.
reason for these fees. During the process of forming the rules and regulations, we had a lot of input from Adam Burning and the planning department. So it might have been their suggestion that, or their idea that it was necessary to have these fees. I don't recall exactly why they were instituted. But there may be a reason.
Well, so that means we'd have to change the see, this is one of the reasons why I wanted that change to get approved at the special town meeting, is because it would have eliminated this requirement for another copy to come to the planning office.
yeah, I mean, I think we should still try, if the planning office, so wait, the copy for the planning office, is that in the bylaw or the guidelines?
So it says it's in the, if you're going for binding review, a copy has to come to the planning.
Okay.
Planning.
Yeah.
If your work requires a planning review, it's got to come here, which I think is insane.
Well, all right, so,
You know-
this form is for preliminary to that.
It evolves. All right, so let's
Okay.
let's look at it. Let's continue. So you describe the work, and then you actually give the requester an opportunity to say, yes, I want to meet with you guys. No, I don't. And then the initial filing fee is enclosed. You know, one of the things about the building department, when you create that entry into the building department portal on that government website, is that you can pay for your building department fee electronically, just like the town lets you pay for your dog licenses electronically through the vendor that they've set up. So maybe we would modify. I mean, I think for the first step, if you don't end up in binding review, unless somebody says, unless some town employee says, oh, we got to have that $25, I would say, let's not do that. Now, if someone says you got to have that $25, then we need to say to them, okay, then you tell us how we can let them pay that electronically when they submit this form to you electronically. Because I think that's the reasonable thing to do these days.
I agree.
So, like, this is a draft, which may lead to, some discussions. But once again, even if let me finish, let's get to that.
Sure.
So, if they want to meet with us, we'll know. And then we put down, when did we get this? We're saying you got to send it to the town clerk. And then then the town clerk has to in turn email all the stuff to us too. But, say she gets it, on 6:00 Thursday night, she doesn't work on Friday, so she doesn't push the send button to us on Monday, then we would recognize that we received it on Monday, not on Thursday night when the property owner submitted the form.
Yeah, I mean, crazy thought here. Why not have it go to the clerk and us simultaneously?
Well, one reason why is because if there is a fee, then that fee isn't coming to us, Nathan. That fee is going to go to the town of Lunenburg.
Okay.
And that's if there is no fee, then maybe we could talk about that.
Okay.
But if there is a fee, then it's got to go to the town clerk, and then the town clerk has to say, money has been received for this application. That's another reason why I think it'd be really good, is that, you know, we could set up a post office box that says town clerk, you know, as an alias, but then the people who receive town clerk are us. You know, you can do that. You could you know,
Right, or
split
something, yeah,
Yeah, you
sure.
could split that you know. So when someone says something to the town clerk APDC, it's now coming to us as well as the town clerk, so she can register it that it's been received officially.
Yeah, well, I think that's great.
Yeah, see, I think that, you know, like, no, all right, so let's continue here. So, and of course, we allow electronic signatures, you know, just like when you file your taxes, you just say, you know, my submittal, this is my signature, and I know that, you know. So you could establish that as a requirement, you know. All right, so now we got the document, and now it's up to us to decide whether the work is gonna, it says work is approved, architectural preservation district is not impacted. So we would say, you know, APDC says yes, meaning that it's minor work, it's work being done to a house that's already been modified, i.e. the building across the street. You know, because they're in the district, they have to submit this to us. But we already know that building has no historic fabric left, so we say it's not impacting the district. Approved, proceed. Process is done and over with. Or they have a historic building that still has fabric, and they say that they want to maintain it by doing the following work. Then we say, it's approved, just like the woman who had the house that got damaged by the car wreck, you know. So she is doing work in accordance with the bylaw. So we say it's approved, now she can proceed to the building inspector department. If we look at it and we say, like for the Ritter building, the work impacts the architectural preservation district, and now the binding review is required because of the requirements of section 113-8. So now they know that they have a requirement for a public hearing. And I actually, so it says, for the binding review, the following must submitted within 5 days of the termination. Now this is where there are things here that I say, all right, do we really want to do or do we not want to do? If we're going to go into binding review, then that means that there's, you know, obviously a more complicated process, a more complicated project. And I've identified things which I'm not sure, like, what's a certificate of ownership? And have you ever gotten a certificate of ownership? It's on the form. It's on the existing form. You know, so these are things that I think we need to discuss. Do we want to continue to have them on a revised form? The other one was the binding review administrative fee. You know, just like the first fee we've been talking about. Do we need to have a binding review administrative fee? And how much is it? Who sets that? Who receives it? How's it processed?
Yeah, I think that's gonna be up to the town clerk or the land use department.
And I think they need to justify, you know,
Yeah.
why it's being requested.
I think we should advise them that in the interest of, that we would advise that they get rid of it. Unless
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, you know, building department inspections are much more comprehensive. They involve much more manpower.
Right.
You know, which is the reason why the building department, you know, has a fee required to be paid by the builder. You know,
Yeah.
and And it's based on construction dollars placed because greater construction dollars generally mean more visits to the site required. You know, if you're just replacing windows, you probably only have one visit, you know, maybe two at the most. If you're building a house, you know, you got multiple visits required, you know, footers, you know, framing, you know, the whole 9 yards. You know, so we don't do that. I mean, that's not part of what's going on here. So I think that, you know, we should challenge the town. Once again, none of us are getting this money.
Well, yeah, I mean,
We should challenge the town to say, do we really need to have a binding review fee? And if they say yes, then they need to help explain that to the resident. And make it as easy as possible for the resident to pay that fee. You know, one of my 300th anniversary wishes is that when Lunenburg gets to the 300th anniversary date, that you never have to go to town hall physically to engage in the town business. That's one of my wishes. Now, that's not to say you don't have to, you don't want to go, you can go there. But if you don't want to go, why should you have to go to town hall? All right, so now, there's a series of things that I think are redundant if we go with this process up front. And I put those in bold, italicized sentences. Photographs, you know, a statement evaluating the property's current state of preservation, the evaluation of the property's architectural style or styles. I mean, these are things that I don't think, you know, if we get a set of plans and specifications for, you know, what the property owner wants to do, that should be enough for us to make a determination as to whether this binding review is going to lead to an approval or a disapproval. Because it's generally the complicated projects that require a set of plans and specifications that, you know, put us in a position, you know, where we need information. So, you know, I would say unless, I mean, I don't know why would we ask a property owner to give us the property's current state of preservation? And why would we ask the property owner to talk about, you know, to evaluate the property's architectural style or styles? I don't know why those requirements were in the existing form. You know, maybe there was a reason. So tell me, you know, why we want to continue to ask for that information.
well, it might be useful context, right? Like I mean, I get what you're saying about asking the property owner. I guess one thing, like as far as the designs, it would seem to me like if I were doing a project and I knew I needed input, I would definitely want to get input before I paid somebody to make plans and design.
That's why up front, you know, we're really saying,
Right.
say yes or no, you know?
Some people don't do that, though.
Right.
Yeah, no, true. I mean, maybe we even want to put some guidance in there. Saying, hey, don't feel like you have to. We encourage you to come forward. You know.
I did say that.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Yeah,
Good.
yep,
Perfect.
yeah. I says, in many cases, it says you may request a consultation with the APDC prior to the review. In many cases, the consultation will speed up the determination of applicability and approval.
Consultation. Right. Okay.
You know.
Yeah, I guess no, that's good. I'm wondering if just like encouraging, you know, without getting into what is the consultation, just like sort of trigger the process. Just like send us a brief description and some photos.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe, you know, I get what you're saying about these questions. I mean, I could see, like, for us evaluating, it might be valuable, like, to understand if the whole house is ready to fall down or what. But I'm wondering, maybe there's a better way of asking this question about, you know, the current, rather than really open-ended where they think, oh, shit, I have to write an essay about my house.
Yeah.
Just be like, you know,
Maybe there should be a statement that they should talk to us before submitting, which is what we've always proposed, because the more information we have, the easier it is and the quicker it is to facilitate the application. If a number of times we've gotten applications that didn't have all the information we needed, and then that turns into a long process.
But you know, in the cases that I've had the opportunity to review since being here in April, like Dawn Marshall's a perfect example, the woman who lives in the Luther Burbank house, you know. She sent a form, and then she says, I want to come over and find out, you know, is this possible? You know?
Yeah.
And we said, yeah, it's possible. You know, so what the way, and the form that she used was this.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
which doesn't really fit what she was trying to do. This is the form people have to fill out.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about asking for, I think it does, but, you know, what that form, the other thing is, we issue the certificate to alter, all right? And I think that we would be better off to have a questionnaire or a form that says, let's do this in steps. And then eventually, you know, if it's a binding review and it's a really complicated project, we got all the data that we need, and then we can say yes or no. You know, that's, you know, and then the certificate becomes this fully completed form that we stamp and say approved or disapproved, you know, which is what's on the back of this thing. The other thing is, we would tell them when the date of the public hearing is going to be. You know, if, like we say, for binding review, the following must be submitted within 5 days of the determination: certificate of ownership, you know, a butters list, and 2 stamped envelopes. What the heck is that all about? You know, where did those requirements come from? Tell me, guys. I mean, I'm
Probably
just,
copied out of Ipswich's bylaw. A lot was taken from them, you know.
Yeah, this was a brand new model, so there was, the state instituted the village bylaw and the APD district bylaw. So we had, it was a totally new thing. We had, the models out there weren't very good.
Yeah.
so we can make some changes here.
Oh,
Yes,
for
yes.
sure.
All right.
We planned
All
on
It was
it.
probably like to mail hard copies from the town clerk's office to the building committee
Yeah,
or
right.
Yeah, yeah. No,
something like that.
I think I was over to the abutters list, and then yeah, so they could contact all the abutters.
so the town wasn't going to pay for
Let
the
everybody know.
stamps. So.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, you know, so I would say that all the stuff that I got in bold here, and maybe the 3 that are like the certificate of ownership, binding administrative fee, and the certified abutters list, you know, unless somebody says you really got to have those, I'd say we throw them out too. Now, the photographs, the statements, I think that, you know, we're burdening people with those requirements. And if they're in a binding review, if we've gone to the, like, if we can't say to them, you don't need a binding review, you know, we'll get to that point like in the first 1/3 of this application. They got to tell us what they want to do. They can send us some photos. They can send us some sketches if they have some. Like that lady, you know, had the house. She had some photos. The people that, you know, Cornerstone, they had some photos.
Yeah.
You know, so we let them give us the simple stuff, and then we give them an answer quickly. You
Yeah.
know, if we look at it and go, oh, you know, you're sending us something that's going to need some plans and specifications, i.e. the Ritter building, then we say, all right, if you haven't sent them to us in the first part of this process, you got 5 days to send us them, and once we get them, then we'll schedule you for a public hearing, and we'll tell you when that date's going to be. So,
And the administrative review is designed to address these questions,
Yeah.
right? The questions are a general
yeah,
cover-all,
Yeah.
to cover all the bases. If there's somebody that's going to build a restaurant in the district next to a historic home, that's where you get into the butters lists,
yeah.
all,
But the village district
Plans
bylaw
and
kicks in
everything.
too then, Richard, because it has a lot more requirements for new construction
Yeah.
than we do.
yeah. Yeah.
It has a lot more
Well,
requirements.
that would be covered by the planning board
Yeah,
because of the new
right,
construction. But as it affects the historic structure and property that's on, that affects us.
Yes, yes. But the village district bylaws would kick in with more degree of severity of restrictions than we would. So if the proposer is gonna comply with the village district bylaw, then we're going to be in good shape, you know, based on the language of the village district bylaw, which is one of the reasons why when it was created, that, you know, it was like this. It's both or none. You know, if you're going to have a village district bylaw, then you're going to have the architectural preservation district, because someone might want to do something commercially in a current residential house that's not, you know, a commercial property. You know, they could do that under the,
By
under,
right.
yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I certainly like the flow of this. I mean, I think there's a bunch of things that we could, you know, some
Yeah, well,
points that we could debate. But I like the idea that we have one application, and
with
for a lot of the people,
progressive
it's going to
requirements.
stop right here.
Yeah,
you know,
right,
It's like you're
right,
done.
right.
Thank you.
And if we go digital, we could turn this into a smart PDF form that
Yeah.
they can just
Right.
Great.
fill out
Right.
and submit.
Yeah,
I did have kind of a question. You kind of alluded to it earlier where you said the questionnaire. If we did create some type of questionnaire that we sent out with the application, could that take the place of the statement of evaluation, the evaluation of the property architectural styles, where we send out something where we're like, hey, what are your windows? Are they wood, vinyl? What is your siding? What is your, depending on what they're
yes,
submitting.
that's a great suggestion.
And then, do you know when this was renovated?
Yeah.
That way, when they're submitting to us, at least we do have some of those details.
Yeah, like a
Ahead of
perfect,
time.
perfect case in point was,
And then we could take those requirements out and just put, please
Yeah.
fill out
Please
this
fill out
questionnaire.
thing.
yeah, like the Cornerstone application, you know, we looked at that picture and we're like, what's that picture, you know? And then he came in and said, all the windows have already been replaced, you know?
Yeah.
And we went,
And,
oh,
and
okay.
especially in the case where we're talking about where somebody went in and changed all the windows and we didn't know.
Yeah, right,
The new homeowner comes in, oh, all my windows are brand new as of 2 years ago,
Right.
per my, spill of sale from the house.
Right.
At least that way it's a data point we have
yeah.
ahead of time.
The more information we have, the
And I think that's a great idea, is to say, you know, these are the areas of concern, you know, so yes, no, you know, do you have the windows been replaced? You know, perfect case in point, for like, you're considering solar, have your shingles been replaced? You know, in your case, Nathan, it would be a yes, no answer, you know, because
yes.
some have, some haven't, you know.
Or do you have a slate roof?
Right, right. Or you could say yes, they have been, but I'm putting them on the shingle side, not on the slate side, and it's like, okay, done. You know, go ahead and put your solar panels on the roof.
That'd be much more clear, because if I had to look at this, I'd be like, oh shit, what do they want to know?
Yeah,
You know,
well,
it's the
yeah.
questionnaire format.
Yeah,
It's much
no, that's a great suggestion, William. It really is. So, and that's kind of like what we were talking about at the last meeting is how do we help the residents deal with this process, you know, and because the residents that have come in, from what you all have described since I've been on this group, is that they've been wanting to comply with the regulation, you know, and if we help them with it, they will, and we'll have even better houses.
well, this is, the language in this is more simpler, more explanatory, right? You're taking out the bylaw or rules and regulations references, which can be tough to get your head around.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that I would do is I would say, you know, here's how you get to chapter 113, and here's how you get to our guidelines. You know, that should be on this application too. So if somebody wants to read all that stuff
Right.
and digest it. Now, the other thing is, we now know with regards to binding review that we would have to say, without a change to the bylaw, that a set of plans has to be delivered to the planning board. You know, I don't think that has any value to the resident who fills this thing out. I mean, I think that now if we ask them to deliver plans to the planning board, then we should say on the form, if you're going to binding review and you have to have a set of plans to do your work, don't send those to the town clerk, send those to the planning board. Your application is already at the town clerk. You know, we already know that. So maybe that's how we deal with that without having to change the bylaw.
Yeah, I would not have people submit anything to the clerk. I don't think that's the town clerk doesn't really accept submissions of things like this. I would have everything go to the planning office.
But they do. You know, the town clerk is like the official keeper of all
They
data.
do. Anything that needs an official record
Yeah.
goes to them.
Yeah.
But an application is not an official record.
Well,
it's not yet.
We might, yeah. I mean, we might still need to want it to go down just for purely legalistic reasons, like mainly for our, you know, to demonstrate that we're accountable, basically, like, so otherwise, someone says, oh yeah, I sent that, they never responded. We have no proof that there was, the basis for adjudicating that is, well, did the town clerk receive it?
Okay,
If-
well, let's talk to the clerk
yeah.
about that and see
Yeah.
how they feel about this.
I will. I will
Okay.
talk,
You'll
I will talk,
to the clerk?
I will
Okay.
talk to town
And if it
clerk.
goes digital,
Yeah,
two
Yeah.
email addresses,
Right.
one send button,
right,
Yeah.
and
right.
send it to
Right.
both offices
Right.
for tracking.
Right.
Yeah, and I do think, I mean, there are certain things that we will not need a record of our determination. Like if somebody submits work for something, we look at it and say, well, this is outside the district. This is not our jurisdiction.
Right.
Or you don't need a building permit for this, so you don't need to apply for this, you know. Something like that, I don't think we need any official record of our determination. We just say, this is not applicable.
If they send us this form, then we need to give them, you know, like, I think this phrase here, work is approved, the Architectural Preservation District is not impacted.
Yeah, you do want to approve, you do want to send stuff, because otherwise you're in this he
Yeah.
said, she said.
Right.
I disagree. What I'm saying is that there are certain cases where we don't need any record, where we can just tell them, here, take this back, we don't need to talk. You're like, this is outside of our purview. But if we make any sort of a determination, including, you know, there's things in the bylaw about administrative review, I think even if we say, oh, you don't need binding review or something, go ahead with the project, there needs to be some
Yeah,
record of
that would be covered
You know?
here.
Okay.
I think if they submit something, we want to put our response, and our response could be, ha, you're not in the district.
Outside the scope of the
Outside-
chapter 113.
Exactly, or whatever.
Or outside the
But we do
district.
want to do it back, because
Yeah.
if we have this process of verbal, you know, communication of
Right.
whatever, then people can say, oh, you know,
Is being in the minutes enough for the record?
that's a good question for council. I don't know. I think I think it's pretty straightforward. If they're submitting something though, it's easy for us to send something back and record it. Maybe what we send back goes to the clerk and to them or whatever.
Okay, all right.
I think what it has to, if it's not within the context of chapter 113, then you don't have to have a formal record. That would be my guidance. You know, and I think that's
kind of where I was going
Yeah,
with it. But
yeah, like if
I
somebody
see your
says-
point too. They've submitted it, and we say, "Hey, we responded to this, and this was our response."
yeah, it's outside of chapter.
Which I think would be
113.
covered in the minutes, which is record.
Yeah, it is a public record. I think, you know, my concern is that the way the bylaw is written, administrative review is kind of loosey-goosey. There are no application requirements whatsoever. So it's not totally clear what it is that we're agreeing to or not agreeing to.
Administrative review is not a requirement of the bylaw, and but I think that it should have been.
Yeah.
Administrative review. Wait, but the application to get into,
For you know,
for binding review or to determine. So you're saying they could just go straight to binding review? Is that what you're saying?
They can, yeah. So they can. The way it's written is that administrative review / determination of applicability is an informal process
Right.
that's separate from the binding review process, which requires a public hearing.
Yeah, that
and-
sounds. Yeah, but I would
issue to
be
the
careful,
CTA.
because that sounds a little bit scary from an enforcement standpoint. Like we should probably look at this when we go back and look at the bylaw, because I mean the intent is good, but I just I just think we want clean records about it, because because it has the power to say, nah, you don't need to go to binding review. That's becoming much less informal at that point.
right.
Right.
So I think it's deceptively formal, actually.
Right. And I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
I think we're making a determination, and there needs to be a record of what was proposed and what
Right.
our determination was.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Oh, William.
William. I'm sure William's right about the recording the minutes. I don't know. I just think for bookkeeping, we want to make our response as easy as for us as it is for the
Right,
applicants.
yes,
yeah.
But I think it'd probably be easier just to have it in a file somewhere, so we don't. If something came up, we don't have to go combing through, the minutes or whatever, and God forbid it doesn't get recorded or whatever.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the town clerk, and I'm going to say, we want to do this electronically, is there a requirement for an initial fee? We don't want to have a fee. If there is a requirement for a fee, how do we set that up so it can be done electronically at the time that the application is submitted? And then find out from her as to whether or not we can legally have something that's sent to her be sent to us at the same time to expedite the application receipt process.
Right.
Great.
And see what she says.
All right.
So,
Okay. It's not like it's really just a recording function on her end. It's not like she's even reading the thing, right? I mean,
well, I don't know. I don't want to diminish the role of the town clerk.
okay.
I
think
doubt
the
the
time-
clerk wishes her role to be enlarged, is my guess. So,
Well, I think that it's a portal. You know, it's the gateway into town business, and you know everything from dog licenses to swearing in.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
us volunteer members of the various boards and commissions. I mean, that she has a role.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
Sure
100%.
does.
All right, so I'll go back to her and talk to her about this.
all right, great.
And then, William, would you mind kind of thinking about like a draft, what a questionnaire should look like?
I've already started,
All right. All right.
the mind's going.
Great.
That's awesome.
Because I think that'd be really helpful.
All right. I think it was a very productive conversation. And I'd like to move along. What time have we got now?
8:52.
8:52. I'd like to wrap this meeting up in the next few minutes. Did we have a sketch of the applicant's flow chart? Did anybody work on that in the last 2 weeks? No? Okay. That's
I think
fine.
Now, if we kind of agree to this, I think we could do an applicant flow chart.
Yeah.
What they have to do and what they should expect the process to look like. The other thing that that would come with, you know, once we decide this is the way we want to go, then we can start plugging in the dates, like, you know, when they can expect. I think the biggest one here is when can you expect a public hearing if you go to binding review. Mm-hmm. If you're not going to go to binding review, dates are meaningless. You know, you're going to get your answer within a meeting. You know.
Right. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So okay, gotcha.
Now we do have requirements for this in the bylaw for binding review.
Yep.
We don't have requirements, and other than if someone asks us for an administrative review, which this could lead to, then we
Yes.
do have a deadline. Within 45
I
days.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is interesting. The next part of streamlining this is what you just mentioned, like within a meeting. Like that's
Yeah.
the next thing to think about is there a way, either by empowering or authorizing someone on the APDC, or is there some transparent online forum that we could use to like quickly adjudicate these without violating open meeting standards?
I don't know. I think if we give them an answer on, like, if they send us and it's something that's minor, we're going to give them an answer within a meeting.
Well, no, I know,
Right.
but a meeting could be like, let's say, when's our next meeting?
A month from now.
April 4th.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's say tomorrow, somebody sends in the picture of their doggy door or something, and they're like,
Yeah. They
Yeah.
gotta wait a month for us to deliberate on the application, so.
that'll drive people nuts. I mean, I know it's annoying for us too, but I'm just thinking, we don't have to decide this now. I'm just saying, you've done some great work here, and these are some great ideas, something to think on for next time. Is there a way
Yeah.
that we can?
Give them a quicker answer.
Yeah.
I think there possibly, I mean, I think the open meeting law is a good question, but I think there are ways that we don't need to discuss if something's not applicable. Like, if we determine it's like, you don't need a building permit for this, or shutters are not covered by our bylaw, you know.
But the only way
Those are things that we don't need to discuss that, I don't think. One person could review the application and say, no, this house was built in 1974, it's approved, you know. The things like that, I don't think we do need to discuss.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm thinking that's a good point. And then there's going to be some grayer area stuff, is
Yes.
my guess.
Yeah.
And I just like, in these days, a month is a long time, right? You
Yeah.
know, like by the time you've thought of doing something and finally gotten yourself to do it, it's probably already taken much longer than you actually wanted to, because
Oh, sure.
you know. So it's not an easy problem, but I think we should noodle on and see if there's
Okay.
a way we can. I think William's already probably got a solution, like,
Okay.
I was thinking, staring at the application, if we add that as a line on, APTC meets first blank of the month, please have applications turned in by
Yeah.
this date in order to meet that meeting.
Yeah, good.
That way at least they
Yeah.
know when they're submitting it,
Right.
this is when they're gonna review it.
Right.
So it's not that, well, I'm submitting tonight, why do I have to wait a month? What's on the application that
Right.
Yeah.
it's the first week or the first
Right.
Tuesday?
You,
or-
you know, the other thing is, I look at what I kind of classify the conservation committee work in the same things that we're trying to do. I mean, there's no life or death issues that comes before the conservation committee. I mean, the things that they make decisions on generally impact quality of life. Maintaining a wetland, maintaining the conservation properties.
okay.
And they take a long time to make decisions. I mean, when you look at how many times they extend the public hearing dates for things that come before conservation committee, I mean, it's pretty extensive. And some of the stuff that people want to do, like I want to cut a tree down, and some of the people, it takes some months to get an answer from conservation. No one complains about that. I don't understand that. No one complains about the conservation commission. But
Maybe they're complaining in a forest or just.
yeah,
The tree's not going anywhere.
yeah, the tree's not going anywhere. But I think that if we were to give them a response within a meeting, like a meeting cycle, I think that's pretty timely. Now, could we do better? I don't know. Maybe we can.
Yeah.
I'm going to move the agenda along.
All right.
Report from the Historic Commission. You've got 3 minutes, Richard.
I'm going to defer on this, my list except for one item,
Okay.
due to the time. And the Historical Commission is putting together a banner program for veterans. You may have seen them in other towns.
Yeah.
Light posts.
Oh, yeah,
Like in Leominster.
yeah, Pittsburgh has it,
Oh, neat.
other communities. So we were putting together a proposal, because it would be in the APD, that we would bring it before you at a future meeting to consider.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. So thanks for the heads up. Great idea.
Yeah, it might be next meeting that we have it all together.
Excellent.
I'll let you know. And if I could be on the agenda as chair of the, as a member of this, I would update you as chair of the Historical Commission as to what's been going on our part.
Understood.
In the interest of communication between brothers, actually, or brother-sister relative committees.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Next meeting, April 4th. Is everybody okay with that?
I am.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?